Welcome everybody to my webcast. Here's the table of contents. We're going to be talking about what phishing is, different techniques, some stuff in the wild, OSINT, how to remove yourself from OSINT. And yeah, we're also going to be trolling John Strand, of course. Have a good webcast without that. So please stay tuned till the end to see that. A little bit about me. I'm a red teamer. I've got experience on internal teams. I've got experience with consulting, a little bit of it all. I focus on red teaming and everything under that red team umbrella, whether it's assumed compromise, physical security engagements. I'm a jack of all implants, love C2s and popping shells. But then again, what a red teamer doesn't? This is a webcast about phishing, so I figured I should go ahead and talk a little bit about what phishing is. The easy answer for this is it's soliciting information or getting someone to perform some kind of an action. Whether it's from an email, a text, a phone call, you want information or an action. Generally speaking, if it's in a red team space, the goal is going to be getting that command control access, getting a password. These days, username and password really aren't enough. You want tokens or some kind of other bypass because most mature organizations have multi-factor authentication. A few of the bypasses around multi-factor authentication are using a reverse proxy like Evil Jinx, or if you're a really good social engineer, you could possibly coerce them into giving you their authenticator code, or even giving them the authenticator code that you're presented. There's a bunch of different phishing attacks these days. It's crazy, but generally it's just a play on words, concatenating PH with the technique at hand. But in the grand scheme of things, if you have something that somebody wants, and there's a means of communicating, email, phone, text, QR code, whatever the case may be, you could be a target. Elements involved in phishing. So it wouldn't be phishing if you didn't have a target. And this is the person that's going to be getting that email, getting that phone call, the person that you're persuading to give you that information or perform that action. Under the umbrella of targets, you obviously have soft targets. These are generally employees who may not have a technical role or that experience. There are also targets who might have above average, business communication outside of their organization, like executive assistants, and maybe they aren't quite as suspicious about inbound communication. You also have hard targets. These are employees that could have access to sensitive data or administrative privileges at an organization. People like network engineers, cybersecurity analysts. And while hard targets are generally not direct targets of phishing attacks, just due to the potential likelihood of getting detected, identifying these hard targets to compromise once a breach actually happens is incredibly helpful to an attacker. For instance, these days, mature organizations, it may only be a matter of time before you're actually detected and also eradicated from a network. So knowing what your hard targets are and having a game plan for once you reach that initial access or breach stage is incredibly helpful. You also have the attacker. That's me. This is the person performing the phishing. It does help if you have cats around. They do increase your likelihood of initial access. And you have the ruse. This is the reason why, right? So the person giving you that information, IT help desk, free tickets, surveys, whatever your open source intelligence tells you is going to guide you in the right direction to get that initial access. Of course, we talked about it. You have the information or the action, and that's basically having someone click a link, open up an application, giving you credentials. And I put in infrastructure here because this is incredibly important. Infrastructure, it can be as simple or as complex as you make it. If you're just soliciting information on a company, maybe during intelligence gathering, you might not even need infrastructure at all. But if it's a complex environment, a complex target, you might have multiple ruses occurring for the same target. You might have multiple phishing servers, a bunch of different redirectors to protect that infrastructure. You might even have multiple C2s listening for different operating systems, whether it's Mac and Windows or Linux or what have you. And of course, your malware hosting sites, you might have a few of those. One gets burned, you have alternatives. But the intended result, command and control, getting a password, token, etc. So the history of phishing, the concept of phishing, it's been around for a long time. The term phishing, however, it was coined back in the mid 1990s. One of the earliest documented phishing attacks is known as the AOL phishing incident. There's other things, people call it AOL, etc. So this happened back in 1996. And essentially, a group of attackers, they exploited the trust that users had in the official AOL communications. So they were sending emails, they were sending instant messages, chat room messages, all claiming to be AOL staff. And if you think about it, right, it actually sounds a lot like phishing these days. So instead of AOL email, we're using Microsoft Direct Send to spoof emails. Please check out Steve Barash's post on spoofing emails like it's 1995. And instead of AOL instant messages, we're sending Microsoft Teams messages to pretend to be a staff member. If you want to know more about that, check out Matt Eidelberg's webcast a few weeks ago about Microsoft Teams. And ultimately, these original phishers were very successful. These days, phishing has gotten so evolved because there's so much more of a financial incentive. So now it's not just targeting users who might have an email account for free internet, but organizations are getting targeted, businesses are getting targeted, governments are targeted, et cetera. So it's evolved, it's much more sophisticated nowadays. Some of the common techniques for phishing. So I figured I should go ahead and start with just Microsoft Office document files, Excel spreadsheets, etc. Generally, every large organization uses Microsoft Office products to some degree, and the ruses can be anything. Resume ruses sent to recruiters. Hey, I'm applying for this job. Can you look at my resume? It could be a financial document that it looks enticing. Maybe somebody thinks they're getting the inside scoop on what salaries might be. Another great one that still works is third-party business relationships. If you pretend to be some kind of a business with a business relationship to your target, you can use this. A little bit less talked about in common, in my opinion, is internal to internal phishing. So let's say that you get access to a domain, you get that initial access, and maybe Active Directory is hardened, or the company is mature and they're doing a lot of things right. If you have access to a file share somewhere, you could drop a malicious document there to avoid mark of the web, and we'll talk about that later. Or you could take a document that's being actively modified and just throw in your malicious macro there. So HCA files, this Cartman picture is a reference to free iPad HCA phishing campaigns that were oh so popular about 7 years ago. But HCA files, after Microsoft and document files were really heavily scrutinized, HTML applications became a pretty common phishing technique. The cool thing is HTA files, they allow you to use multiple coding languages within the same file. You could also build in your own social engineering to supplement your ruse within that same HTA file. So on the left, you can actually see a tool that creates a payload, which establishes a C2. And this is an HTA payload generator. And on the right, you can see a tool that creates a form that you could use for a ruse. For instance, you could combine these two. You could create your command and control payload, and you could create your ruse over to the right. And let's say that you send somebody the form, they fill it out. When they click submit, maybe a benign thank you for submitting the form, message box pops up, but it also detonates your payload. So HCA files, a lot of mileage out of those back in the day. So remote template injection. This is one of my personal favorites. I got mileage out of this for years and years. So at some point, attackers began using remote templates. If anybody here is curious what that is, it's basically remote templates. They store formatting, styles of documents, layouts. If you work at a large organization, there's probably no shortage of templates and branding documents that you have access to. For attackers, hey, it's a shellcode runner. And so remote template injection, it executes the code from a template file remotely. So if you send it to someone, if you send a document to someone with the remote template injection, you're not actually sending a macro with a bunch of malicious code. You are sending a reference to where that code is stored, but you're not sending malicious code itself. Another cool thing about this is it retains the docx extension, which by default doesn't generally run macros. It still runs macros. So mark of the web, still a pain. So the TLDR of this is Microsoft has a pretty good way, at least in my opinion, to determine the probability of something being malicious just based on where it's downloaded. Examples are external internet, local intranets, or the local computer. Generally, the less trusted and the further away that you are, the more scrutiny that you're going to receive. And what pen testers and attackers came to find out is what pen testers and attackers do. They found out that files contained within certain archives can be delivered from a completely external source. And when they are extracted, they didn't contain that external mark of the web designation. So this led to attackers basically in this giant rat race where they were just shoving malicious files inside of different archives, seeing what does and doesn't have the mark of the web applied to it. Very popular phishing campaign by a group named Nobelian back in 2021 or so proved this out. And HTML smuggling. So this is delivering malicious content by embedding it within an HTML file. Typically, an attacker will hide the malicious payload like JavaScript or some other kind of executable code within that HTML file. It's still a great technique to use today. You can send an HTML file and have it auto download some kind of payload, or even better, clicking a malicious link that takes you to that HTML page, maybe automatically download some kind of stealer malware or ClickOnce application so you can get that command and control. And of course, multi-factor authentication. So back in the day, a way that attackers could get in, the old school password spray. So when 8-character passwords were commonplace, you could use password spraying tools. And if you were successful, you could just get into a mailbox and continue breach. If there's a VPN portal or some kind of a remote PC gateway. You might actually just get access to a computer on the network, or at least access to the network itself. Some of the bypasses back in the day were maybe texting someone and asking them what the authenticator code was, like, hey, I used to have your phone number, etc. Please, what does it say on your phone? Or something that's still sort of popular today in certain scenarios is spamming the authentication. You have a username, you have a password, there's MFA, you just keep trying to log in and just wait for somebody to pick up their phone and get annoyed and just say, okay, yes, I accept the authentication, go ahead. These days, not so much. Newer bypasses are generally around your tokens. In the Azure sense, it's a primary refresh token. Adversary in the middle attacks using tools like Evil Jinx are excellent ways to really demonstrate that impact in modern testing. And of course, more of a physical pen testing sort of phishing thing is using physical items to achieve code execution or credential extraction. So oftentimes during a physical security engagement, you might go around a building and drop USB devices, or back in the day, maybe like a CD-ROM that says, employee salaries 2005 or something, right? Definitely a valid technique to get, your C2 connection or credential extraction, but there's a couple problems. One, you have to be at the place you're trying to compromise. So for a pen tester, it may not be exactly feasible. And two, people are cautious of USB drives nowadays. Security awareness has really caught up with the end user, and it might get reported if there's a bunch of USBs just laying around. Additionally, with the implementation of technical controls, if you plug in a USB that isn't provided by your company, it might actually be the catalyst to an incident response situation, and heck, you might even get reprimanded or fired depending on who you work for. So currently, a lot of red team, this is like the hot stuff right now, is ClickOnce payloads. ClickOnce payloads still work really well. They are a bit less scrutinized by technical controls, and as the name suggests, ClickOnce payloads they require less steps to run, to get that action, to get that command and control, and this is by design. And without going too far into the technical details, like a ClickOnce payload where the payload uses some kind of application domain side listing or side loading, or DLL side loading, along with some HTML smuggling, still a great way to get your breach. Now let's move into, obviously, QR codes, and let's talk a little bit about why QR codes are so amazing and dangerous. One is people use their phones generally to scan QR codes. And I'm curious, how many people here, put it in the Discord, how many people here have some kind of antivirus or technical control on your phone? Very curious about that. You can literally make a QR code look beautiful and fit whatever kind of ruse that you're in. I like to have things from the wild. So if you're phishing with the QR code and it's a parking lot scam, you can add a little parking meter. If it's a gift card scam, you can add a little Amazon logo. If it's a crypto scam, you can add a Bitcoin logo. And generally, users are not fully aware of the link in the QR code until they're basically ready to click it on their phone and visit the site. It's incredibly easy to just scan, click, and maybe it's too late. It's a bit more of an obscure phishing technique. You could You can probably guess that more people are going to be aware of a malicious Word document than they are a QR code. So in the modern day of MFA, oftentimes, like I said, the MFA code is on your phone. You're scanning the QR code with your phone. It doesn't necessarily reduce the amount of steps that it takes to approve and push a push notification and go to a link, but it does kind of reduce the amount of time to authenticate because everything is on your phone. And once again, people usually don't have those technical controls on their phone. The links, they're not human readable, so they're less likely to be investigated if you just walk by. I mean, if I type out a link, malware.com, and tell you to click on it, no, I'm not clicking on that. But if I send you a QR code with a bunch of lollipops and candy canes on it that goes to malware.com, you might go to it. User awareness training, I haven't seen QR code stuff. So this is additionally, it hasn't really caught up yet. Phishing stuff in the wild. So this is actually a QR fish that David Fletcher and I did some time ago. And while there was a bit of success from this campaign from an offensive perspective, the real success in this story was actually the user awareness. So someone received this in the mail. They didn't recognize it. They thought it was a little bit suspicious. And within a day or so, not only was our infrastructure just completely burned to the ground, I mean, the domain, where we were hosting everything burned to the ground. And the client had an entire awareness campaign on their intranet so that other users would not fall victim to that same ruse. In my opinion, one of the best parts of red teaming is getting caught. Getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar by someone who is curious, someone who asks questions, and in this case, identified sort of a novel technique that not a lot of people are utilizing, at least to my knowledge. And sort of like a side note, their marketing team really enjoyed our little QR phishing ruse. So I guess if cybersecurity doesn't work out, I'll go do marketing or something. Who knows? So we talked about targets. We talked about different techniques. Let's make it fancy. So while QR code phishing is not a new concept, there are news articles and YouTube videos from years ago talking about the QR code stuff, but it seems to be ramping up in occurrences, gift card scams, parking garage scams, crypto scams, etc. Some of the tools to really operationalize a good phishing campaign that's going to work these days. Well, the first one I'll mention is the one most people are probably familiar with, Evil Jinx. And a new version recently came out. Kuba Gretzky actually has training for this as well. I'm not endorsed by any of this, but I do recommend checking out the training if you have the budget for it. I personally have found it very useful. The tool is free, but I've heard that there's a pro version coming out, so be on the lookout for that one as well. Another tool that I found a lot of YouTube videos on is Max Fisher. I haven't used this, but it looks like a cool tool with some interesting functionality. And of course, I've got to mention the social engineering toolkit. Anybody that's been pen testing or in cyber for a while is probably aware of SET, or the social engineering toolkit. It really was, it really did pave its own way, basically the first of its kind when it came out. So very cool. And there are plenty more phishing tools out there that you can use. These are just a few examples. So if you know of some other tool that you use for phishing and is helpful, please let us know in Discord. Share the awesomeness. I'm curious what the community has to say. So open source intelligence, yeah, we talked about the tools we're going to use. We talked about the different techniques that we're going to use. Let's talk about how do we find people. The operator handbook, this is the one book. It's got a permanent place on my desk. If you don't have it, and you can, seriously, I've got it right here. If you don't have it and you can afford the $15 or so that it costs, I really highly suggest the investment. I've even given copies of this to other hacker friends on Christmas. That's how much I like it. You also have Fast People Search. Fast People Search is a web application, and Fast People Search has so much data that it can be pretty scary. I actually found my childhood best friend through Fast People Search. I didn't remember how to spell his last name, but I did remember where he lived like 30 years ago, and I searched the address. Through the address, I looked at the list of owners throughout the years. And then through the owners, I was able to find related family members tied to the owners. And yeah, I had dinner with him and his wife and his little girl. And yeah, it was a blessing. And thank goodness I had this, because the guy lives in a farm in the middle of Kentucky. So great tool, also very scary. There's also a tool called Spy Dialer. This is something I usually use this as a source of validation from other open source intelligence sources like Fast People Search. It's also got a feature where you can hear the voicemail. So if I'm going through Fast People Search and other OSINT sources, and I'm looking for someone named John Doe, I find a phone number, I'll plug that phone number in a Spy Dialer, I'll listen to the voicemail. If the voicemail says, hey, this is John Doe, I know that I'm on the right track. So email validation, Hunter.io. This is a great tool for validating email formats when phishing. So people here, you probably know some companies, it's first name dot last name dot first name, etc. Great way to just validate how their emails are formatted. One of my favorite places to find information are company pages with names on them. I don't have any listed here because I didn't want to call anybody out. But if you have a company directory on your website somewhere with all of the employees, I mean, I've seen email addresses, what people's hobbies are, even people's like pet peeves and stuff. You know, how long they've been there, phone numbers, a picture. It really is a gold mine for phishing. Let's say that you send them an email and your email doesn't get responded to. It's a phishing email and somebody's on the company directory. You can give them a call, butter them up about gardening or whatever hobby they have, or a recent promotion listed on their directory page. And then, hey, maybe you can say, hey, you know, I sent you an email a week ago. Can you go ahead and look at my resume, please? Enable content. Of course, there's LinkedIn. So everybody that's been pen testing for a while probably knows about the wealth of information that you can find on LinkedIn. Job listings, employees, company events where people's badges are just hanging out everywhere. Software used, there's a lot of stuff. The list goes on and on. And really, there's no shortage of tools that you can use to scrape LinkedIn. There are so many tools that scrape LinkedIn that I actually usually run you know, 2 or 3 different tools to really scrape as much information as I can. So let's talk about delivery method, mailware. So we talked about the OSINT, we talked about you know, how we're gonna find people, the different techniques, the different tools. Well, let's say that you have to deliver the fish and you're wondering, well, how do I bypass email filters? Very simple answer: don't use email. You can use something like Postable or a similar service, all from your office share. So the same place, you design your ruse, church up your QR code to fit the ruse, and you can send the malicious QR code through the USPS. You can even choose what the return address is. You can make the return address the company address if it's a hobby or an interest-based ruse. You can make it the headquarters for that. So here's sort of a use case, right? So let's say that you are using Evil Jinx with the QR ruse. You set up your infrastructure, everything's good to go, but you also don't want to make sure that your infrastructure does not get burned to the ground. Well, once everything is up, you design your QR code, you send everything through Postable. You can literally hide your fishlet in Evil Jinx. Your fishlet is sort of your ruse, your campaign. You can just hide it, and then you can just watch Postable. Over to the left, you see delivered, but it also says en route, almost there, estimated delivery time. So you can just kind of hang back, hide everything, wait, and then right before that phishing campaign is delivered physically to the person, stand everything up and hang out, grab yourself a Sprite and wait for those juicy creds. So following up with people that you phish, never hurts to do that. For instance, here you have a spoof card. This is an application that allows you to spoof or mimic phone numbers. Recently, there's been some controls and different legislature done that may prevent certain spoofing services from spoof cards and others. I know that if you have a grandfathered account, you're not affected by this. So, when you're downloading spoof cards specifically, or whatever software that you're going to use to spoof your phone numbers, etc., make sure that everything is functioning the way in which you need for your phishing campaign. But the real important part to note is, when it comes to phishing, following up with the people that you are phishing could literally be the difference between getting caught and getting in, or getting in and staying in and avoiding that detection. Phone calls are great for this. If it's in the budget, I mean, and let's say you're doing a gift card ruse, it's not going to hurt having a couple of cheap gift cards handy if the target begins to get suspicious. And in my opinion, a $10 Amazon gift card is well worth the purchase if you're getting initial access to an organization. All right, so we talked about all this, OSINT, phishing people, techniques. Let's talk about not being a target, right? So removing your house from Google Maps. This is a great way to start. If anybody here has seen the Netflix series, The Real Bling, it's based on a little hodgepodge group called the Bling Ring. And what they did is they used Google Maps to identify their victims. And their victims were based in Los Angeles, and their victims were celebrities. They also used open source intelligence to figure out when the residents would be away. So for instance, Paris Hilton, today she's going to be in Paris, whatever. And then they would go and they had all this information from Google Maps. Here are the egress points, the ingress points, all this sort of thing. And they burglarized their houses and made hundreds of thousands of dollars. Real estate companies can do this too, texting from Google Voice numbers, sending postcards to your house, etc. So take a screenshot of this and blur your house if you want to remove yourself from Google Maps. If you forget how to remove yourself from Google Maps, you can just, Bing it. So going back to something in the real world. So this is a picture of an actual postcard that was sent to me in the mail. A real estate company who they will find out your information online. They will text you from unidentifiable numbers. They won't tell you who they actually are on these unidentifiable numbers. They're sending a picture of your house to you. In my opinion, not the best way to run a company. Sort of a funny note on this is my residence is actually blurred on maps. So they sent me a picture of my own blurred house and said the way that they liked the way that my house looked. So anyway, we'll get into this a little bit later, but just keep in mind that if a company can find out all of this information and mail you and text you and call you, a threat actor can too. We talked a little bit about QR scanners. So this app is it's available on Google Play and Apple App Store. There's not a ton of similar apps that I found like this, but it's a good start. Ultimately, you just want to be vigilant of the QR codes that you're scanning. Smart QR scanner sort of seems to only identify QR codes that have been identified as malicious. So it's not perfect, but it's a good start. Opting yourself out from open source intelligence websites and data brokers. Permission slip, this is an application that was released by Consumer Report back in 2022. And this app, it shows you what kinds of data that companies collect and to let you decide what to do. So please go check it out. There's also paid services. Some of the more popular paid services are Delete Me and Optory. They do charge a fee to have your data removed, and then they actually periodically check data broker sites for your data, and they continuously remove it. And at the end of this webcast, please stay tuned. I'm going to be providing a free document with over 100 links that will take you directly to the opt-out page of data brokerages. And this will actually be hosted on the official BHIS web or GitHub, something similar. Please stay tuned. So being ambiguous on social media and LinkedIn. So revealing certain things like the software used, different accomplishments that you made, photos, and all of this different stuff. It's great, right? Having good memories with your friends, your family, your loved ones. All of it's good stuff, but it can be useful for an attacker. And while I can't sit here and explain some solid line for what you should and shouldn't post, I suggest that you are just aware of what you are posting. And if it's something that could at some point make you uncomfortable, don't post it. Privacy Badger. So this is a browser extension by the EFF. Love all the work that EFF does. Great organization. And this extension actually blocks invisible trackers. And it's not really an ad blocker per se, which I also recommend please use an ad blocker. But it does attempt to prevent tracking from different third parties and other entities that it deems as like unobjectionable or shady or potentially malicious. So why protect your data? Going back to real world stuff. So back in 1989, Rebecca Schaefer, a very famous actress, she lost her life. Somebody used a private detective to find her address through the DMV, and she was a victim. And this actually prompted the Driver's Privacy Protection Act back in 1994. And while the act did go into effect in 1994, the government still can and they do sell your data for profit. For instance, real data. The state of Indiana in 2023 made $25 million selling your data, if you're in Indiana. In 2017, California, they made $52 million selling your data. Florida made $77 million in 2017, all from selling your data. And while they will say they can only sell to authorized parties, it still doesn't mean that it can't be abused. Just because someone's authorized to purchase your data doesn't mean it's not going to be abused. So unless you're Tom Hanks in Castaway with a cool little volleyball painted, you can't really be a total ghost, right? But hopefully some of the suggestions that I just mentioned can sort of get you a nice cozy spot in the middle of being a total ghost and someone who's just way overly exposed and could be an easy target for an attacker. All right, fun facts with Joseph. Hopefully all of you are sick and tired of seeing PH by now. All right. So if you've been watching this webcast and you've scanned the QR code on my shirt or the clock here, thinking it's a Rickroll. By the way, not just my shirt, but a few other people are wearing the shirt. And if you're thinking it's Rickroll, it's not Rickroll. The purpose of this entire thing was to get a count of who scanned the QR code. By the way, the original Rickroll is a duck roll, so you're all getting duck rolled right now as you watch my presentation. Anyway, seriously though, it was an awareness exercise that what you scan might not be what you get. Sort of like typo squatting, and I kind of want to do this Discord thing where give me your best new phrase for typo squatting, but for QR codes. Anyway, so at the expense of my own embarrassment, I actually wore this shirt. I'll show it here. Around town. Can you see it? Yeah, you can see it. There you go. I actually wore this shirt around town over the course of like a week and a half or so. And it was pretty entertaining to watch some people just sort of surreptitiously scan the code to see what it was in public places. It's very interesting. People were very interested in scanning the shirt. And if you like little Easter egg types of things, if you scan it, it goes to the 80s song by the Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams. And the lyrics are, some of them want to use you, some of them want to abuse you. So if you didn't scan, great. Maybe you were cautious. If you did scan, also great. The 80s had amazing music. And in the spirit of never going to give you up and not giving up your data, the domain rickroll.today is actually going to be rerouted to a publicly available spreadsheet that contains those links to the direct opt-out links for all of the data brokers. I also made some stickers. You can see the design for the stickers over to the left. I'm going to be giving the stickers away to the content and community team. So let's say that you have one of these stickers and you're hanging out with your coworkers and maybe somebody finds something about themselves publicly available that they don't like. Yeah, seriously, have them QR code the sticker and they can just immediately begin removing their data from public data brokers. And I don't have a ton of data removal information for places outside of the United States, but if someone else does, we would love to make those additions to the public spreadsheet. So please email nevergonnagiveyou@gmail.com. Anyway, figured it'd be nice to provide a a free list of places you could opt out of without paying some kind of service fee that's a few $100s. And of course, I've got to talk about the history of Rickrolling. I personally didn't know the history of Rickrolling when I started this little research project. So here it is. It's an adaptation of duck rolling. If you're watching this, you've all been duck rolled. And basically back in like 2006, a fellow military veteran named Sean Cotter was trolling other users into thinking that the Rick Astley video was a link to Grand Theft Auto game trailer. So Sean, thank you for your years of laughs and years of service. And Ryan, could you please share that screen again really quick? So The past week and a half, I walked around like 165 clicks, and now it says 314. So we've actually, since this webcast has started, we've gotten more than 150 scans. So once again, just an awareness exercise. A lot of you clicked. So anyway, a lot of people clicked, maybe thinking that it was Rickroll, and it's not. So anyway, be careful for QR codes. Don't just scan a QR code because Rickroll's on the center of it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the future of phishing. Obviously, I can't tell the future, so this is speculation, but I've got some pretty cool examples. So over here to the left, you can see an original phishing email sent by a threat actor in the wild. The ruse being an unpaid invoice from Rackspace, and using ChatGPT with some fairly simple prompting, I promptly made a way more believable email that you can see over on the right. And of course, the ability to break down language barriers is amazing. It's also very scary in the context of an attacker. So back in the day when you would see a terribly written phishing email, you knew it was phishing immediately. Nowadays, it may be a little bit tougher. Also, the abundance of offensive tools, whether it's post-exploitation, phishing, malware development, web scanners, whatever. More and more tools are coming out every single year, and it really does lower the barrier to entry for malicious individuals who maybe have a limited technical skill set. Allowing those malicious individuals with limited technical skills conduct legitimate, successful phishing campaigns. And of course, deep fakes and voice cloning. So a lot of people here are probably familiar with deep fake, and the Tom Cruise deep fake that we can see over to the left is just a normal guy, Miles, and over to the right you see him, pose as Tom Cruise. It fooled a lot of people when it came out, and voice cloning, you can also do that for phishing. I know that there was a Liam Neeson, the guy from Wanted, there was a voice cloning phishing campaign from him back in the day. So this is probably going to be a big deal here in the future. And with that being said, I've got a surprise for everyone. John Strand flew out to Kentucky. I told him a chicken recipe, so he flew out here in the BHIS private jet. And since he can't be here today, he did leave a little message for everyone at the end of the webcast.
Hey everyone, John Strand here. I'm hanging out here in Kentucky with Joseph and discussing his big raise. We've been doing nothing but eating chicken and listening to Jack Harlow bangers while we hack the world. I hope you all enjoy this webcast. Deepfake phishing is real and I am not.
All right. So a few acknowledgements. One, thank you, John Strand, for being a good sport and just supporting all of the weird stuff that I do at BHIS. And for Red Team in general, big shout out to Michael Allen. He was a huge help with all the different initial access stuff, including the QR code phishing techniques and all the good work in general. I've got his class linked here. And I want to be clear that BHIS's classes, this stuff is what we do at BHIS. It's not a class where it just regurgitates, hey, enter in this base 64 encoded PowerShell script to get initial access. It's updated at given intervals with things we actually do at BHIS. And there is a new version or an updated version of his class coming out soon. For adversary in the middle training, I suggest checking out Break Dev Academy by Kuba Gretzky for anything of that nature. And if you are getting beaten down by technical controls pretty badly, I suggest checking out Maldev Academy by Mr. Docs, a friend of mine. It's got a great community beyond the course as well. The Discord community is always posting up very spicy initial access droppers and other things. And of course, I've got to talk about a free source. So Mayfly and the folks over at Orange Cyber Defense have, I mean, basically run about 5 or 10 commands, and you have an entire Windows Active Directory domain set up for you. So please go check out Game of Active Directory or GoAd. And there's also plenty of walkthroughs and tutorials on how to navigate through that. And with that being said, that is the end of my webcast. I hope all of you enjoyed it, and I appreciate you hanging out.
Well
Joseph.
done, Joseph.
Nice.
Well done.
First webcast, it felt like your 40th.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, nice job.
Fantastic.
Yeah, good job. We were backstage listening in, also having our own conversation about other stuff. But we listened in. Thank you so much for doing that. To the community that, for you who showed up today, hopefully this was beneficial to you and you were able to get something out of it. If you have a question that you feel like it wasn't addressed or answered, we have Rick and Michael and Gabe that are going to stick around and ask questions here. So please get your questions into us. Now, if you are here and you did not say hack it yet, Hack It is our program where if you've attended more than 1 or 10 webcasts, go ahead and let us know by saying Hack It. We also have a Hack It channel. So if you take a look underneath the Webcast Live channel, you can go ahead and put Hack It in that channel. It's the best place to put it. So that way we can keep track of it. It's a manual process. What I mean by that is we actually check. If you have a Homer Simpson at the end of your name in Discord right now, that means we got you. All right.
Got you.
We got it. We figured out a way to like track it much better than we have been in the past. So that's how we're doing it now. Real quick, before we do the questions and answers, we have our comic book series coming out called The Future Is. It's about the hackers about 30 to 40 years from now dealing with the consequences and the ramifications of the technology that comes out over the next 30 to 40 years. So if you're interested in pre-ordering that, we have the Kickstarter where you can go ahead and find that. All right. So with that, Mike, Gabe, and Rick, do you have any questions for Joseph?
Yeah, I'll jump in.
Oh,
I'll go ahead.
Nice,
Okay,
well
I'll
done.
go first.
Michael.
Okay, so
Well done, everybody.
what about a QR code, then redirection once clicked or accessed to go download malware, to go to egmalware.com? Have you seen anything like that?
Oh, what? Hold on. What was the question?
So what about a QR code that after you scan it, there's a redirection? So it goes out and like downloads malware as opposed to say, this is not all in the question. I'm reading into this a little bit to understand, but as opposed to say like capturing credentials, you scan the QR code, it redirects and it goes to, for example, malware.com.
Yeah, so Michael, you and I actually do that, right? So you could actually have something based on user agent or other identifiable information based on the origin of where someone's clicking. For instance, if somebody is visiting a link or a QR code from their phone and the user agent is iPhone, we could actually have them go and get redirected to an adversary in the middle sort of page where it's like, hey, enter in your password. Or if it's something along the lines of, hey, I know that you're on a Windows machine. Maybe you have a spicy ClickOnce payload where it's like, hey, in order to do this, you got to do this update really quick and have something in that ClickOnce application to fit your ruse and get a payload that way. So yeah,
Yep.
you can definitely have a front with some logic in it that actually takes you to the appropriate place to get that information or have them perform that action.
All right. And the second question I've got for you from an audience member is, you are always talking about threat actors. Do you have any experience with threat actresses? And if so, which ones?
Well, yeah. So in my opinion, one of the best threat actresses that we have actually works at BHIS, and her name is Cameron, and she is terrifying. I've been on physical security engagements with her, and she is a beast. So yes, threat actresses you should be much more afraid of.
And I
in my
have to add to
opinion.
that. I have to add to that. I think that threat actresses are better. I mean, to tell you the truth, people tend to trust women. I mean, it's just human nature. People tend to trust women a little bit better than a man coming up saying, "Hey, you know, I need your password." You know, and it's just proof that we've seen it. I mean, we've had people go on physicals that just walk right in. You know, and you're like, how do they do that? Like Sally was a good one. She was awesome at it because she just knew how to do that. It was really good.
Yeah, yeah, and Rick, about what was it? Just a couple years ago, I had Kim dress up as a threat actress at Way West Hacking Fest, and she fooled everybody into thinking she was pregnant.
I remember.
Yeah, so yeah, threat actresses. Yeah, don't sleep on threat actresses.
Question
Go
I
ahead,
have.
Rick.
A question I have from attendee is thoughts on paid services like Delete Me being effective. Do you think they're worth it?
If you have the budget for it, I do, but it is expensive, and it is a recurring thing. So not everybody has the budget to pay the, you know, $200 or $300. But if you do have the budget, I don't see any problem with it at all. I mean, not only do they remove your data from a lot of different places, but they also continually look for new places that may house your data. And honestly, I feel that data brokers that have these data sets are most likely standing up multiple sites, so that if everybody's opting out of you know, data.com, they'll have some other alternative site with the same data set. So it really is sort of a whack-a-mole game with the data broker sites. So yeah, if you can afford it, I absolutely recommend it.
Cool, Joseph. First of all, what a great webcast. You nail it.
Thank you.
All right. Joshua Parson, I have a question. Can you recap how to get the link for the data brokers?
Yes, so we will be posting that on official BHIS channels. It's actually going to be hosted on our GitHub or somewhere similar. So yeah, please stay tuned. We do have the spreadsheet, but we're just finalizing like the domain redirection for this QR code and getting everything set up. So please stay tuned. The entire list is going to be there. And if other people have other places they suggest we add, we'll be augmenting that list in real time.
Cool. I have another question. Oh, please go ahead.
Real quick, Gabe. I know some people need to leave. So Joseph, what we always have people do is if you could sum up everything today in one final statement, what would that be?
Remove your data, blur your house, be careful of what you scan.
All right. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today on this Black Hills Information Security webcast. My name is Jason Blanchard. Thank you so much for being here. If this was your first time here, please come back. We do this pretty much every single Thursday. Next Thursday, David Fletcher is going to talk about fun with macros. And then after that, we have another webcast. And after that, we have another webcast. And so we would love for you to come back. We'd love to share our knowledge. We'd love to introduce ourselves to you. If you didn't know, we're a pen testing, red team, threat hunt, active SOC, anti-SOC, GRC. If you need security, we have it. We'll take care of that for you. So if you need to go, totally understand. But if you want to stick around, we'll do a little bit more Q&A with Joseph and the team for about 5 more minutes. And so we appreciate you being here. And thank you for doing Hack It and being a part of the Discord community. Stick around in Discord. It's a great place to ask your questions and get them answered. All right. Gabe, you had another question. What was it?
Yeah, we have an anonymous attendee that would like to know, you mentioned so many tools to scrape LinkedIn, but which one actually work the best and keep up with the change that LinkedIn implement?
Question.
Yeah, so I would suggest Yalis is a good one. That's the one that I remember right off the top of my head. I actually have kind of a templated list of shell commands that automatically do it. But yeah, as a matter of fact, give me just a moment and I'll paste in a GitHub link. Hold on.
I've never had this much silence on a webcast before. I don't know what to
Very
do with it.
unnerving. I don't know what to do with my hands.
I don't like it.
Jason, I'll give you a question real quick
Okay.
while Joseph's getting that pulled up. So one of the attendees says, I forgot to type Hackett after one of the webinars. Does it mean that I will be 1 point short?
That is correct.
That is correct.
Two things have to happen: attend live and engage in Discord. If those two things don't happen, then we don't count it. And it's only on the Black Hills Thursday webcast, unless we do a workshop on Fridays, then those count too. So that's how it works. Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Is there a way, Joseph, for you to tell how many people clicked on your QR code?
Yeah. Right now, so at the beginning of it, we had 167 clicks from just myself walking around town with a t-shirt on. I think the people making my t-shirts scanned it quite a bit. They were really wondering why in the world I was doing all of this
I have
stuff.
no idea.
Yeah, but since the webcast, we have 398. So
Nice.
uh,
Well done, everyone.
yeah.
And Joseph, did you say you're sending us some of these for us to do something with? Did you mention that to anybody?
I am, yes. I will be, Jason, you have all of the information about the Hackett people and the
Yep.
attendees, et cetera. So once I actually get the stickers and everything in, I'll be sending t-shirts and stickers to you. And,
Sounds
yeah.
good.
Wonderful.
So the official answer, yeah, since this webcast started, we've had 234 clicks.
Nice.
So yeah. So Gabe, you owe me a steak. We had a bet.
Okay.
I had faith, but no, it's all gone.
Any other questions from the audience, Rick or Michael or Gabe?
Well, people are really interested in the opt-out resources. Like, do you want to touch that anymore? Or?
They're asking specifically where the resources are going to be available. Is that right?
For the opt-out, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's on the same URL as the QR code. Is that right, Joseph?
Yeah. So the domain rickroll.today is going to be redirected to the official source. So it's going to be yep.
And one of our attendees, I'll go ahead. If you're still answering that.
So yeah, if so I just put in a couple of things. Rickroll.today is going to be where the opt-out links will be housed, and never going to give you data at gmail.com. If you have your own opt-out links that are not present in Rickroll.today, please send those links over to Never Going to Give You Data. We'll look at them and we'll get them added to Rickroll.today's spreadsheet.
Perfect. And so I got another question. This person saying the Mimecast email tool has a new QR code detector /filter. How well does this work? Do you have any insight into that? I have not run up against that yet with QR code phishing.
Yeah, I have no idea. But if you want to put that into Discord somewhere, I'm sure it could be helpful. At the time I was doing the research, really the only thing that I found was the safe QR scanner. So any new tool out there that's going to help protect you, please, yeah, share it with the community.
I have a question from Alan Murray. Hey guys, have you ever used Google as a proxy to bypass web filtering for payload delivery?
Not really Google. Personally, for red team infrastructure, in order to bypass things, if you look at Shaitan, he is the author of Brute Retel. He's got some blogs on his oxdarkvortex.dev about the infrastructure using Edge.io and domain fronting. So yeah, if you want to get past, if you want to get communication out, I'll put in a link here. More questions?
The amount of links that came in during the the webcast that we did not want to click was higher than ever. Like a lot of times people like ask questions and stuff, but this time they're like, hey, here's a link you should check out. And I was like, I don't know. I don't want to do that. Joseph, I don't know if you're in the middle of answering a question, but I do have a question for you as you're wrapping up today.
Yes.
How was it doing your first Black Hills Information Security webcast?
Oh, it was fine. You know, Black Hills, best place to work at. You all let me do all the weird stuff I want to do. I was able to take it in whatever direction I want. I've also got great mentorship at Black Hills to help me along the way with things I don't know how to do, including webcasts. So it was much less painless than one could potentially imagine. So.
And then I'll ask the audience, would you like Joseph to do a webcast in the future? And I know that's like weird, right? Like when you ask your parents, can a friend stay over?
In
like,
front of them.
yeah, in front of them. And they're like, well, it's hard to say no.
Oh my gosh.
But
Resounding yes. He has no option. Nice.
well, looks like you're doing another one.
Doing another, obviously. Do it. Awesome.
All right. Anything else that we missed or should address before we head out? Rick, I'll start with you. Rick, anything else?
No, awesome job, Joseph. It's great, and it actually is pretty cool because my blog just came out about phishing and social engineering stuff. So kind of goes hand in hand. So Joseph and I were on the same page for probably the 20,000th time.
Gabe, anything from you?
Well, be careful on what you click, and maybe like talk to your grandparents to be careful for things like that.
Yeah. Michael Allen, anything from you?
Nothing from me.
All
That's
right.
it.
Deb, anything to wrap up with?
Well done, Joseph. And yeah, Gabriel, that's a really good point. Talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents, talk to people who are not computer savvy about the safety that they need to implement. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I will finish up by saying, if you have supported the Kickstarter, thank you so much for doing that. If you're considering it, thank you so much for doing that. And we're making comic books because why not? Being able to tell the stories of the kind of work that we do is fascinating and interesting. And we found a way to do it that doesn't break our NDAs. All right. And with that, I think we're done.
Yeah, thanks,
All
guys.
right, Ryan. Kill it with fire, Ryan.
Kill it.
Kill it. Kill it, Ryan.
One job.